Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. All things are possible. An amazing chapter. It's chapter 17 in the power of awareness. Two major takeaways in this chapter that I think will help us all move forward. I keep hearing a lot of examples of, what happens when this is the case in my life, right? Everyone's like, manifestation works perfectly, except when this is going on, except when there's a third party, except when someone else got the job, except when this chapter and a couple examples I'm going to give of stuff that I've manifested and how we kind of need to look at things a little bit differently. And I think once we do that, it kind of sinks that shift. It kicks it in the direction that we're trying to go. So Goddard does a beautiful job on this. Let's get right to it. Chapter 17, of course, out of the power of awareness. It is of great significance that the truth of the principles outlined in this book have been proven time and again by the personal experiences of the author. Throughout the past 25 years, he has applied these principles and proved them successful in innumerable instances. He attributes to an unwavering assumption of his wish already being fulfilled every success that he has achieved. I am in the same boat. So I just want to say, I 100% agree with what he's saying. I have been practicing this for years. I have manifested a whole bunch of things. Technically, if you look at it, you manifest everything in your life using these principles. It's just oftentimes we don't do it consciously. But that being said, this is beautiful. So, he was confident that, by these fixed assumptions, his desires were predestined to be fulfilled. Time and again, he assumed the feeling of his wish fulfilled and continued in his assumption until that which he desired was completely realized. Now, here's where we get to the part where we need to stop looking at what's happening right now as any sort of indication of what's going on. He kind of uses a metaphor in a little bit and kind of relates manifesting as climbing a ladder. And I loved the analogy, and we'll get to it, and it'll make more sense, but I want to preface it a little as we get into this. But he likens it to climbing a ladder. And if you think about it, climbing a ladder, you can only do it one rung at a time. I mean, you could try to skip it, but it starts to become a little tricky. Maybe you could do two, right? But ultimately, you've got to go rung by rung by rung by rung. And I think so many of us want to start at the bottom of the ladder and instantly get to the top. And that's just not how it works typically. It can, I guess. There are times maybe where you might be able to go up way faster than you should be able to. But certainly you can climb faster. Sometimes you can get to certain levels and hang out for a while and look around and then continue to climb. Sometimes you slowly climb. But ultimately, it's moving up in a direction. And you've got to keep just looking at where you're trying to go. And who cares where you're currently at? You have to ignore the current reality. I think I put it as assumption is basically ignore it till you have it. Kind of. I mean, there's people that say, there's another phrase that's fun, fake it till you make it. The same thing is ignore it until you have it. And then you don't have to ignore it anymore. So continue. Live your life in a sublime spirit of confidence and determination. Disregard appearances, conditions, in fact, all evidence of your senses that deny the fulfillment of your desire. One more time. Live your life in sublime spirit of confidence and determination, meaning I know this stuff works. I know it's going to work. I'm assuming it's going to work. I'm assuming I'm heading in the direction I want because I'm going to keep heading in the direction I want. Then he says, disregard appearances, conditions, in fact, all evidence of your senses that deny the fulfillment of your desire. Rest in the assumption that you are already what you want to be. For in that God, all things. He gets assuming that what I see right now is ruining me. What I see right now is not good or negative experiences. Instead of going, I'm assuming that no matter what's happening right now, it doesn't matter. I assume I'm heading in the direction that I'm trying to go. Through the mastery of your assumptions, you are in the very truth enabled to master life. It is thus that the ladder of life is ascended. Thus, the ideal is realized. Begin to live the life of the ideal and no longer pivotal paragraph. It is thus that the ladder of life is ascended. Thus, the ideal is realized. The clue to the real purpose of life itself to your ideal, with such awareness of its reality that you begin to live the life of the ideal and no longer your own life as it was prior to the surrender. That really hits home for me. Again, it's that whole concept of not necessarily paying attention to where you're at. I'm going to give some other examples, but my favorite example, and really I think one of the cooler things I've manifested in my life, was a pretty solid, cool bit of a radio career. I was a DJ on an overnight huge station in Knoxville, Tennessee, which was Market 69. Again, not huge, but I was an overnight guy for 3 years. I was a star in Knoxville. Like, I was actually somebody, I'd say my name, and like people are like, oh my God, that's you? So I've been there. Now, I will say that in my approach towards becoming in radio, like doing radio, I didn't have a radio job necessarily yet. I mean, there was a point where I took the class and I learned, and I was kind of doing the volunteer at the college, right? So I had experience, but I had never gotten paid, and I wanted to. I wanted to do radio and get paid for it. Well, I didn't have a paid radio job. Did I just go, hey, no, it's not working? No. I kept saying to myself, I'm going to be a DJ. I don't care that I'm not one yet. I'm going to do this. So I kept pursuing. I made my demo tapes. I worked out a situation where I was able to share them with somebody that was able to kind of open some doors and talk to some people and knock on some doors at least. And he said, hey, yeah, I like this guy's work. I can't promise I got a job for him, but I would definitely use him if he was out here. So in that, I realized, oh my God, there's a chance for this to happen. Packed all my stuff in a U-Haul and I moved to another state. And I started, didn't make any money, was doing a little bit. And, again, did I keep looking at the fact that I don't have it yet and let that stop me? No. I kept moving towards it. I kept climbing rung by rung on the ladder. I never once looked at where I was currently and thought that had any sort of thing to do with where I'm going to be in a week. Never. Not once. You know why? Because that's what I'm changing. If you're manifesting something, if you're creating something, if you're merging with something and making it real in your life, it's not real yet. So of course it's happening. It's in transition. So that's what the living with the wish fulfilled is. Now I will say, I didn't walk around and go, well, this is what it's going to feel like when I'm a DJ, and just walk around like that all the time. No, for me, it was more a belief of this is definitely what's going on. This is definitely what's going to happen. This is the direction I'm going. I'm not going to take no for an answer, and I'm going to keep going. So I did. And guess what? It works. It's very powerful when you don't look at your right now and assume that's more accurate than making something that's unseen seen, right? So if you don't see it yet, assume you're going to, and keep that assumption going and watch what happens. That's when you open up the door to the mastery of life, as he says. You become a master of life when you finally realize all you got to do is stay focused on where you're going and stop looking at where you're at. Like that matters. Stop looking at right now and what's going on right now as any sort of indication of reality. You're creating reality. Your tomorrow's reality hasn't been created yet. Why would you look at today's reality and say, well, that's what tomorrow's going to be? No, change that. That's what this is all about. To continue, each assumption has its corresponding world. If you are truly observant, you will notice the power of your assumption to change circumstances which appear wholly immutable, meaning like I can't change it. I can't change this. This doesn't seem like it's possible. I got a third party. Someone else got the job. The boss doesn't like me. I can't change this. Well, if you keep assuming that, you can't change it is right. But if you don't, if you understand that your assumption of changing that, I assume this is going to change. I assume my boss and I are going to get along. I assume that another position is going to open up. I assume this person's probably not going to last. I assume maybe he's going to get promoted and open up the vacancy for me. I assume that she loves me. I assume the third party's going to move on. That's what you do. You assume it. Well, what if she did leave? That's an assumption. Or she's probably going to leave. That's an assumption. That's how you assume. So you have to consciously, by your conscious assumptions, determine the nature of the world in which you live. Ignore the present state and assume the wish fulfilled. Assume that it's going to happen, regardless of what you see right now. Claim it. It will respond. The law of assumption is the means by which the fulfillment of your desires may be realized. Every moment of your life, consciously or unconsciously, you are assuming a feeling. You can do no more avoid assuming a feeling than you can avoid eating and drinking. The key on this, and think about how many of us have little conversations in our mind that spark an emotion. Maybe we're thinking of the person we love, and it creates this wonderful little emotion of love. That's awesome. That's creating more of that. Or what if I have a little moment where I'm daydreaming / imagining having my radio job, and I'm just thinking how cool that's going to be to sit there on my mic and be like, doing my little thing. Dan RadioStyle, bringing your news to you, right? Like my little moment. And feeling that for a second and going, man, that's really cool. That creates an emotion. Well, what about when we do it on the other side? What about when we think of something, maybe there's a third party, it's just a good example, and then we get an emotion about it. We get angry, we get upset, we get sad. Now you're putting an emotion to it. Now you're manifesting more of it. Rather than assuming she's probably going to leave one day or he's probably going to leave, this third party's going to leave, and man, how awesome that's going to feel when that happens. Boom, emotion. Now you're putting feeling to it in a positive direction. There's a big difference between looking at what's happening right now and getting bummed. I hear it all the time. Everything's going good, but then I look at what's going on right now and I get bummed. Is that bad? Yeah, it's not good. Not good at all. I mean, it's going to happen, but that's where affirmations kick in. That's where you've got to start assuming that the wish fulfilled is happening. But if you stay focused on the negative thing, if you stay focused on what's happening right now or what's not happening right now, I don't have my money yet. I don't have my house yet. I don't have my car yet. I don't have my girlfriend yet. You're going to continue not having any of those things. Assume it's going to work out. And then when you have the assumption thoughts, it creates assumption feelings. Assumption feelings are what run out to the world and start to make things happen. Pay attention to what you're feeling when you're thinking about stuff. As he says, you can't not have feelings. It's like eating and drinking. You're going to have feelings throughout the day. Most of us are not consciously controlling it. Most of us are not consciously aware of what we're thinking and feeling. And that is why so many of us are like, I'm doing everything right, but it's not working. First off, probably not doing everything right because it would be working otherwise. Secondly, you're saying, but it's not working. So yeah, you're not doing everything right. If you were, you'd understand that I've got to assume the wish fulfilled. It's not working right now. Big whoop. Continue assuming the wish fulfilled. Continue assuming that things are heading in the direction you'd like. Continue assuming that you're going to get this face-to-face with the interviewee or your love-to-be or whatever. Assume it's going to happen. Assume you're going to bump into each other at the coffee shop. Assume that it's going to work out, and it does. I assumed I was going to make it in radio. The chances of doing it were super slim. Did I look at that? Did I go, the odds of all the people that ever go for being a DJ is like 1%? Wow, damn. If I looked at it like that, I'd never accomplish anything. But you know what? I did the 1% thing. I did it. So, yeah, I assumed it's possible. I didn't listen to people that said you can't do this. I didn't listen to people that said, this is really hard to do. I didn't listen to people that says, this isn't a great life to live. You're going to live out of a trailer or a U-Haul trailer. No, I just went for it and I did it and I kept going for it. And I didn't let things stop. And then I was open to opportunities. I ended up working at a bunch of, 5 different 1,000-watt AM stations before I finally got lucky. And it was through another circumstance, a guy from the big radio station. It was actually their afternoon drive guy. He was really awesome. He came in and he was hitting up my girlfriend at the time for costumes. She worked at a costume shop and wanted costumes. They were doing a canned fundraiser for canned food for people that needed food. So he got can costumes, like dresses for him and a couple of the other DJs, and they wore them at this remote where they were trying to get people to come donate. So because of him coming into the office where my girlfriend was working and him saying, this is for the radio station, WIMZ, she goes, hey, my boyfriend's interested. I'll give you I'll let you guys have these costumes for free. I mean, bring them back, obviously, but you don't have to pay for them. But in return, I want you to take my boyfriend's demo and give it to your boss. And he says, all right, that's a deal. And he did. And you know what? He took it to him. And then what I started doing is I called this guy literally Monday through Friday, every single day for 3 months. He answered the phone twice. Second time he offered me a job. I left him a message every single day and kept telling him, this is my job. I just look forward to hearing when you're going to call me back and tell me when I can start. And that literally was living in the end, wish fulfilled, and it happened. 3 months of pestering this dude, and I finally got the job, became a full-time DJ. And in fact, I was a part-time DJ for about 4 months before they offered me the full-time gig. So again, I don't look at what's happening right now as any indication of what I'm going to be tomorrow. Never. Not once. Not ever. I don't look at right now as any indication of what's happening tomorrow. If there's some weird mojo going on in your life right now, you're probably in a transition. Assume you're in a transition. Assume it's all working out towards your goal. Stop assuming that everything's falling apart. No. And first off, when everything seems to be falling apart, it's because it's kind of reorganizing, reshuffling, and coming back together. So sometimes out of chaos comes order. You've got to understand, you've assumed that these things are working out, and you just climb up one more rung on that ladder. The final paragraph he has, all you can do is control the nature of your assumptions. Thus, it is clearly seen that the control of your assumptions is key. You now hold to ever expanding, happier, more noble life. The assumption is the key. Put the key in the car and start it up. Put the key in the house, open the door. It's your assumption that does that. Now, some of the things that I've managed to manifest in my life to kind of, some people have asked, manifested a condo at a pretty young age, manifested a very good job. I've got over a 6-figure salary at my job right now, and that actually was over 15 years. I'd probably quintupled my salary. So it was one of those things where I just kept working at it. Yeah, no, I didn't jump immediately to the larger salary, but I got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Look at my YouTube channel as a great example. For a long time, it wasn't much, but I kept doing it, kept seeing a future, kept seeing where it's going. I'm growing super fast, and I've got a long ways to go, but I'm going to continue to get there. I've manifested people in my life, friends into my life, girlfriends into my life. I've manifested multiple jobs. I've manifested vacations. I've manifested money. I've manifested all sorts of stuff. In fact, I almost took a picture of it just to share. I was walking down, I was traveling, and I was walking down the jetway, and there was a picture, it was Southwest, I think, and there was some picture, and it had a beach ball in it. I was like, there's another beach ball. For any of you that have watched my channel for any length of time, I bring up the beach ball all the time. It was my first manifestation, my first doing this consciously and going, oh my God, this works. So the beach ball was a fun one for me. And again, I saw another example of that. I've manifested countless things in my life, like Goddard. Too many to mention. And really, we manifest everything, whether conscious or unconscious. So 1, assume. Ignore it till you have it. Doesn't matter what's going on right now. Ignore it. Assume it's working out. Assume everything's going in the right direction. Assume they're going to love you. Assume they're going to forgive you. Assume that job's going to open up. Assume you're getting to your goal. Assume it. Don't go, I don't know, man, I'm sitting on a fence. No. Assume that, yes, this is happening. You've already proven it. I hear everybody tell me that. I have no problem manifesting the little things, but the big things are a challenge. Well, 1, that's a belief, right? If I think it's harder, well, then it's harder. They're making it harder. And you got an emotion about it. It's frustrating. So now you've got an emotion and you're going to manifest a more difficult path than you need to. You can assume that the path is easy. You can assume that the path will light itself for you, like street lights showing you the way. You can assume that whatever crazy seems to be going on is going on to help you get to where you're going. Assume it. Even if you're wrong, it really helps when you're going through a tough time to just go, this is going to work out. It always does. And there's something to this. There's always a reason for stuff. Even if you have a hard time finding it, even if it takes 10 years to figure out what the heck that reason was, you will find that reason. Assume that's the case, and everything will change. And then the metaphor of the ladder is allowing. And that's the other place where so many of us stop short. We're so close, but then we stop because something's not happening. We notice with our senses that it's not occurring. So we get all bummed and sad. You have to allow. And every time we look at things right now and say, this isn't working, we're not allowing. We're fighting it, and we're throwing on the handbrake. We're slowing ourselves down. We're pumping the brakes. Sometimes we slam into a wall because we get so messed up by it. We've got to try to help ourselves to get to where we're trying to go. If every time you open up Instagram and you see some person, your third party, and they're with someone else and that frustrates you, then please stop doing that. Stop, at least for a while, at least until you're better. Assume things are working out. Take away that extra sense that I see the picture, so therefore this is real. No, it's not real. Tomorrow's real. The next day's real. Doesn't matter. And even that's not going to be real when you get there too. You can keep remaking your life as much as you want. So climbing it a rung at a time, maybe 2 rungs at a time, maybe you climb really fast. Still, it's a ladder, right? And it's a little sketchy if you go too fast because you might fall. We don't want to do that, right? But keep going up. Keep rung at a time, rung at a time, rung at a time. And eventually, you'll poke your head up where your dream is, and you'll climb up on top of the roof, or you'll climb up on the balcony, whatever the heck you've got your ladder stuck up next to. Climb up into the tree to help that kitty cat out. Whatever you do, whatever it is, you got this. You got this. Stay focused on where you're trying to go. You can do this. I'm telling you, you can do this. I've done it. You can do this. You've done it too. Assume that it's working out, no matter what doesn't seem to be. Ignore that until you have what it is you want. If I let everybody tell me I never would have been a DJ, if I never would have been a DJ, this YouTube channel never would have happened, probably. I mean, the DJ thing is why I opened up the channel. I missed it. I wanted to keep doing something that was similar. I don't want to do radio because it's just the industry to get into. I actually work for a major radio company. I'm on the IT side, so it's a very different experience. But the on-air stuff, unless you're the morning guy or the afternoon drive guy, generally speaking, you don't make that great of money, and you work a lot of goofy hours, and you're expected to show up in a lot of weird places and put on your smile. But it is what it is, and it's a cool job, and people treat you like you're a rock star. So assume the wish fulfilled. The feeling of it, it is what it is, but when you're assuming it's real, when you're assuming this is happening, that should generate a feeling, like a contentness, a happiness, a love in your heart, whatever it is, an excitement, because I'm going to start this new job, at the joy of driving a new car, or the fact that I went down and test drove it, and I know exactly what this car feels like, and I know that I'm going to have that car, and maybe I just got to save up a little money for a few months, and then bam, I got it, whatever. Assume it's going to happen, and the things that will start to fall in line that need to in order for your dream to come true, like a DJ walking into a costume shop to rent can costumes. Couldn't have imagined that one if I tried. Don't worry about the how. Assume that it's working out, and that stuff will work itself out. Dan Radio Style.